Welcome to the Healthspan Collective, the podcast where science and wellness converge. I'm Nicole Doran, and I'm thrilled to have you join us as we dive into the world of regenerative medicine, integrative health, and the latest science and trends shaping how we live healthier for longer. Lindsay O'Neill is a TEDx and Gaia speaker, Harvard-certified culinary medicine chef, and the founder of Wellness Eternal and Small Hinges Health. After a 20-year career in AI and tech, a life-altering accident during pregnancy led her to pivot into wellness, where she now bridges science, business, and personalized health. As host of the Optimize We podcast, syndicated to over 3.5 million listeners in 187 countries, she delivers science-backed, no BS insights to help individuals optimize their health and performance. Lindsay O'Neill, thank you so much for being here on the Healthspan Collective today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited we're finally doing this. I think we each launched our own podcasts like a week apart, something like that. Yeah.
We did, absolutely.
It's like great minds think alike. We are on the same page.
We are, and thank you for coming all the way to New York City to interview me here today. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Anybody that knows me knows that I will take any opportunity I can to come back to the city.
Oh, well, it's my hometown, so I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm so happy to be here. So we originally met at Eudaimonia back in November, right? Yes, and then we ran into each other again at A4M.
We did indeed.
How did you get into this industry of wellness and regenerative medicine and biohacking?
Well, it wasn't intentional at all.
Okay.
As I mentioned, I grew up here in New York City. I was always a skinny little white girl living amongst, a very diverse population of people. I could pretty much eat whatever I wanted to, and that got me into a lot of trouble with my health. In my later teens, early 20s, I had so many different health problems, but I still looked like I was healthy from the outside. Mm-hmm. And then I really just kind of did whatever I wanted to do throughout college and throughout my early 20s, even though my doctors were saying, you have high cholesterol, which was crazy because I was like 102 pounds and had high cholesterol when I was in my early 20s.
Really?
I had chronic sinus infections, chronic strep throat, and all sorts of other things. They wanted to take out my adenoids, they wanted to take out my tonsils, and I just kept ignoring all of the signs of chronic illness until I started to have kids. And then after I had my first two kids and I was working in technology, I went through this great IPO and as an executive in tech. And I made all of this money, and I was like, I want to start doing something to give back to my community. So I started teaching cooking classes because I always loved to cook. Mm-hmm. It wasn't always the healthiest food, but I started teaching cooking classes in schools to elementary students. And I really loved that bond that I had with the kids. And I wanted to feed them healthy stuff because in the back of my head, I knew you should set your kids up for success, right? I wasn't really doing it for my own health, but I was doing it for my kids and these other kids that I was teaching. And then I got pregnant with my third daughter, and 7 months later, I got hit by a car.
Oh my God.
And while I was on bed rest...
You were walking and got hit by a car?
I was standing outside of my car. So I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Okay.
I was parked at their camp, in their camp parking lot out in the Hamptons. And I had just put my 3-year-old in her car seat, and I felt the door slam into me. So someone had backed up into the car door and was continuing to back up and literally almost decapitated me and broke my legs. So I went like this to hit the back of the car to get her to stop. And she finally stopped. She gets out of the car. She goes around the car and said, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I said, "No, can you please pull up?" And she pulled up and she left, but I knew who she was.
Oh my God.
I was a little bit in shock at the time, but I didn't realize that I had pulled almost every muscle from like my knees to my neck by doing this. When you're pregnant, you have relaxin in your body, and so your muscles are very stretchy.
Right.
And so I had really overextended my muscles. And so a day later, I went into full-blown labor because I was in so much pain. And I went into labor 8 times throughout the course of bed rest. So originally the doctor put me on modified, well, I should back up. I am a type A personality. When I was pregnant, after this IPO, I not only started teaching cooking classes, but I also was on the board of 5 different tech startups. I had made some seed investments. I was going back and forth from the Hamptons to the city. I had started my own business, so I was working way too much.
Okay.
And this was kind of like God's way of saying, Lindsay, you need to slow down.
Yeah.
You need to stop.
Yeah.
And it was really scary, but it was probably the best gift I could have been given at that particular point in my life.
Okay.
I had ignored so many things in my life, not just in my health, but also in my relationships and my work. And this it forced me to really stop and slow down. So the doctor told me to go on bed rest, and I didn't really listen to him.
Oh, okay.
So
the baby was okay.
Baby was okay.
Okay.
But because I was in so much pain, the pain kept triggering
Labor.
Okay. And they don't give you pain medication when you're on bed, when you're pregnant.
Yeah, you can't even take an Advil.
No, you can't. They actually let me take Advil for 2 days.
Okay.
And that helped, but it helped for 2 days.
Right.
And they wanted to get me to 39 weeks. I was 27 weeks at the time.
Okay.
So I had a significant time to go. Then they put me on full bed rest because I wasn't getting any better, and they gave me a medication that was supposed to be safe in pregnancy.
Okay.
If taken in short duration, but I took it for a full 6 weeks.
Okay.
And after she was born, she was humongous. She was born like 10 days early at 9 pounds, 1 ounce.
Wow.
Out of me. So the nurses had to sit on me to get her out. And and she was healthy, she was fine.
Yeah, it's good to have a big baby, right?
That's what everybody said.
Okay.
But I didn't realize until a few years later that she was big because she was born with low muscle tone, probably because of the medication that I took while on bed rest. So the low muscle tone ended up causing almost a 5-year span of medical issues for my daughter. But before that, I ended up going into full autoimmune shock, as they call it, in endocrinology. So if you have some sort of physical or emotional trauma and you have underlying conditions and a genetic predisposition to autoimmune conditions, it can actually spark your autoimmune condition. So I was dual diagnosed in 2017 with lupus, which is rheumatoid arthritis, and lupus. All of my hair fell out. I had a fever for 10 weeks. I was hospitalized 3 times with crushing chest pain. And all of the while, I'm still trying to work. I'm trying to take care of my 3 daughters and, and live my life. But now I'm in a place where I can't ignore this anymore.
Right.
I needed to do something in order to take care of myself so that I could be there for my kids. Mm-hmm. So I went to a million different doctors, and I finally found this functional medicine doctor actually up in Westchester, where I live.
Okay.
And he told me, you need to go on a 3-month cleanse. I basically removed everything from my diet. I took 73 different supplements. I was drinking this awful shake every day. Oof. I detoxed everything out of my body. And this man is so brilliantly smart. He's an older gentleman who has been researching nonstop all of these different things that you can do in order to diagnose and also heal. Okay. So we talk about precision medicine, personalized precision care now, and I know you do all the time in your practice. This was the first time I'd ever heard about bio-individual diagnostic and palliation of whatever symptoms and issues that you're having. Right. And when I first met with him, it was like he was speaking in Japanese. But he taught me so much about myself, and then he put me on this crazy cleanse where I literally couldn't even function for the first few weeks. I had a mental breakdown. I was bleeding. I had my skin, every toxin was coming out of my skin. My face looked like a pizza.
Oh gosh.
It was awful going through it.
Yeah.
But then I came out on the other side completely autoimmune free. And
wow.
at 30, I think I was 35 or 36 at the time, I felt better than I had ever felt in my,
Really?
like literally in my entire life.
Wow.
I had more energy. I was sleeping better. I mean, every aspect of my life was better after that. And then that's when Brynn started to get sick.
Okay.
So she was 3.5. So she had 17 UTIs in 6 months from the time she was 3.5 until she turned 4. And so she was perpetually on antibiotics, and we didn't know what was going on with her. So again, like launched back into this, what the hell is going on? We eventually ended up at Yale Pediatrics, and they're an amazing practice. They found that her muscles weren't functioning properly, all of her muscles. So not just her fine motor. Like when she was writing in nursery school, she would write like this. You know, she'd hold the pencil like this because she didn't have that fine motor control.
Okay.
And it also impacted her gross motor and then also her digestive function.
Wow.
So over the course of many years, we had to do a lot of things. So I ended up getting certified in culinary medicine through the Harvard School of Public Health.
Oh, cool.
So that I could help her with her digestion by feeding her super clean food that also tasted good.
Right.
And it was a fun program that I did. It's out in Napa at the CIA in Napa. So that was really fun. And then, you know, there's only so far you can get with food as medicine. It's a great foundational thing to stimulate your health. But when you're 4 or 5 years old, it's really hard to, like, you know, she can't take supplements.
Right.
You know, so there's...
I was just thinking you can't really, like, shoot a 3-year-old with peptides, right?
I don't think you can. I don't know. You would probably know better than I would.
I don't think think it's advised.
And so we started to do other things, like biofeedback.
Okay.
In the doctor's office, where they put leads all over her, and then she'd have to control a video game with her muscles. Basically, like her internal digestive muscles were being exercised while she was controlling this video game, and it really was working. It was working so well. She was 5, and it was March of 2020, and we all know what happened. So she couldn't go into the doctor's office in the middle of the pandemic.
Right.
They basically shut down the doctor's office. And as soon as we started to go back for her biofeedback, the machine broke.
Gosh.
And they only have one machine
Of course.
in the whole practice. And this is a $35,000 machine. I called the manufacturer. I was literally willing to do anything because it was the only thing that was really helping her. Along with, you know, the eating clean and that kind of thing. But in the middle of the pandemic, you know, and going through trying to learn how to read on Zoom with your kindergarten class, it just was, she went backwards significantly.
Okay.
So fast forward, you know, all of this has really impacted my relationship with my husband at the time. And we end up getting separated and going through a divorce, which is also, you know, it's hard on the kids and it's hard on us. And so there's little flares here and there for me and for her and, you know, and even for my other 2 daughters.
Right.
But there's so many different things that are out there that helped us along the way, you know, so like mindfulness and meditation and red light therapy, and we live in New York, so it's dark.
Yeah.
Come November, you know, the seasonal affect disorder really affected us, especially during the pandemic, especially during a divorce, and also during illness.
Right. You had all the things at once.
All of the things, and I think a lot of people had all of the things at once.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of like coming out of it now. I feel like. But because of that, I learned about all of these different things. You know, I've always been the type of person who's wanted to know everything about everything. I've been like a sponge that's never full. And especially when it comes to your children, you know, you'll go to the ends of the earth and back. So I researched all of these things, and eventually someone sent me a Ben Greenfield podcast in 2023, in the beginning of 2023.
Okay.
And Ben Greenfield was interviewing this company called Immortal.
Okay.
It's AMMORTAL. I don't know if you met them at Eudaimonia.
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I haven't spoken with them now.
So they were outside. They have a cool chamber inside of their Airstream that they drive around the country, and that's kind of like their experiential sales.
Yes. I can
tool.
like picture their Airstream.
Exactly. So there's a zero gravity bed with pulse electromagnetic frequency, vibroacoustic pulse, a cannula with molecular hydrogen in your nose, near and infrared light, guided meditation, breath work, and a sound bath, all in a bed, basically.
And you do it all at once?
All at once.
Oh my God.
It's a crazy looking device. It looks like it's from Mars.
Talk about a biohack, or a biostack, I should say. Like
Exactly.
I love when you're able to stack a bunch of things together and do them at once.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you have a lot of really cool stacking technology.
We do, yeah.
You should get an Immortal chamber
Yeah.
also.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, you should,
Okay.
definitely. But so I listened to this podcast, and me being the type A personality that I am, I'm just going to call them and see how I can get my daughter into this, because she had really gotten to like the 10-yard line in her health, but I wanted to get her into the end zone. So one of the founders called me back. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
I know. So they called me back, and he said, I'm in Miami. And at the time, my parents lived in Hollywood. So
okay.
they were really close.
Easy, yeah.
And my daughter was 8 at the time. And they said, we're in Miami for the baseball classic. We're doing sessions for all of the MLB players.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, that's awesome. And they're like, well, come down. So I grabbed my daughter. We jumped on a plane. It was like March 4th of 2023. We get down there, and he said, do you have a driveway where we could park the Airstream? And I said, well, my friend does around the corner. So he literally drove it to my friend's house for free.
Oh my goodness.
And because he really wanted to meet Brynn. So I basically just like throw my 8-year-old into this crazy looking med bed in an Airstream, and I'm sitting next to my mom on the bench watching her go into this, beautiful meditated state, into this red light bed with a cannula with molecular hydrogen in her nose. And this
was she nervous at all?
No.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was amazing. She wasn't at all. And
Okay.
She's so brave.
Yeah.
But she's like also willing to do whatever she needs to do.
Okay.
Because she was getting really tired of being the sick kid. And that's exactly what transformed her, I think, the most at that particular time. She was ready to let go of being the sick kid, because after a 30-minute session, she came out of the Immortal chamber and she said to me, Mom, I'm not supposed to be the sick kid anymore. I'm supposed to be the healer.
Oh my goodness.
I know. So
Wow.
she sat by my friend's pool and she meditated, and all of her muscles started functioning properly. I brought her to Yale Pediatrics a week later. They put leads all over her body to test her, as they had done dozens of times before. And for the first time in 5 years, her muscles all functioned properly. And they said, what did you do to this kid? And I showed them a picture of this chamber and this Airstream, and they were blown away.
Yeah, I'm blown away. I'm like jaw on the floor. Like, that's amazing. She did one session. It's not like she did this for, even like a month.
Well, but she was also 8.
Right,
Now, we've been damaging our bodies for a lot longer than that. So we need a lot more work than an 8-year-old does. But it was also an emotional shift. And I think that the mind is so powerful that I don't think you can actually heal the body unless you are also at the same time healing the mind.
Yeah.
It's really vitally important. You think about one of my podcast episodes actually was with Lisa Wimberger from Neurosculpting, and she created this whole protocol, this 5-step meditation protocol to rewire your brain. And she did that because she was struck by lightning when she was 15, and she started having grand mal seizures where she would flatline every time she had a seizure. And so for 15 years, she was having these grand mal seizures without knowing what was going on with her. And then once she got the diagnosis, she was able to start putting the things together, her meditation practice, and then also her knowledge of what was triggering her. Because once you have the diagnosis, sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing to have the diagnosis, because your brain is wired to keep you safe, not to make you happy.
Right.
And when you have a diagnosis, sometimes you can actually tell yourself that story so much that you end up getting like depressed or anxious, and you make your condition worse.
Yeah.
But in her case, she was able to really lean into, okay, well, now I have a diagnosis, and now I'm able to fix it because I know what's going on.
Okay.
And so she was able to basically stop her grand mal seizures from happening through this 5-step process. And it's one of those like aha moments for me when I'm talking to people like that, like, yes, for Brynn, it was the same thing, you know, and in my life, it was the same thing too. You have to get to a point, like I was comfortable and happy ignoring all the things that were going on in my health for so many years. But then when it happens to your kid, you can't ignore it anymore. Or when it gets really bad for yourself, you can't ignore it anymore.
Right.
And so that's why I got in. That's a very long story of how I got into what I'm doing now, which is essentially helping people cut that journey to their bio-individual health and their health optimization a lot shorter than what I had to go through.
Right.
And that's why I started the podcast that I did, and that's why I have the Biohacking Index, which is a kind of like the Yelp of biohacking, to share unbiased third-party ratings and reviews and lots of clinical research and efficacy with the masses, with anybody who wants to either publish their information or go there to do their own research before they implement any of these crazy things into their lives.
Yeah, I love it so much, and I resonate with that, with your journey so much. I don't even have kids yet, but just the idea of I have been through it, and it took a long time to figure it out, and I want to be able to help anybody having any kind of similar experience shorten that journey for them, even if it's by 1 year or 6 months.
Yeah.
Like, if I can save you some of the tears that I have shed and, just like heartache that I have felt of feeling like I don't know how to get out of this and feel differently, like, my job here is done.
Right.
So
it's also sharing. You're doing so much amazing work.
Oh, thank you.
I feel like when you help one person,
yes,
it's like, that proverbial dropping a pebble into a lake.
Totally.
It's got that ripple effect. And so once you're helping one person, like, for example, you have helped my fiance who was injured in a fire last year and really was severely injured, had to have spinal surgery, and you've been helping him recover. Even though we don't live in the same town, we don't even live in the same state, you and your team have helped him, and now he's going back into the fire department and helping those guys. So they're the heroes of New York City, and so think about, if you're helping the heroes, how many other people are going to be impacted.
It really is so real. We see it every day. That warms my heart to hear. I mean, I'm so glad. So we helped him by providing him with some peptides for accelerated healing. And I hear that story all the time, that even people who are exposed to this information a lot, which I'm sure most of the fire department isn't really, but it kind of just goes in one ear and out the other until they see a friend or a loved one really make an impact for them. And then people's eyes and ears kind of perk up and they're like, wait a second, I have a lot of back pain. What do you think this could help me?
Right.
And that's just it. It's like one person at a time, slowly but surely. And I'm sure you feel the same way. Even, I got started in this business in 2020. I feel like and I'm like, maybe it's just the bubble, my personal bubble, right? But I feel like people are a lot more receptive even than they were 5 years ago to whatever you want to call it, an alternative, an integrative, a functional, regenerative approach.
I don't even think they're just receptive to it. I actually feel like it's shifted a lot since the pandemic. And I know that was a massively impactful time for a lot of people.
Yes.
But it woke a lot of people up. Sometimes it takes this big awakening or these big things that, I'm a New Yorker. I lived through 9/11. we're actually in a studio that's close to the trade towers, and thinking about like how everybody came together in the days after that awful tragedy that happened,
right?
And all of the good that's come out of it. And obviously there's a lot of bad, but sometimes, God does give you these really painful experiences to shake you out of what could be a lifetime of pain. It's a short-term painful situation. And COVID was kind of like that, right? It woke up a lot of people to, well, there's more to health than just exercise and eating better.
Right.
And some people take it a little too far.
I agree.
and you can't do that. The first health business that I actually founded is called Small Hinges, because small hinges swing the big door of positive change. You don't have to change everything.
Right.
When I first got into culinary medicine, I started working with clients to help them mostly with weight loss, because that's what everybody wants, especially this time of year in the springtime. Everybody's like, okay, I gotta get beach ready. I only have a few weeks left. But they'd get so overwhelmed by making all of these changes. And it was the same for me when I was going through my health 3-month cleanse. It was too aggressive.
Yeah.
I don't know many other people that would be able to do that.
No. You have to be very ready and willing to transform your health like that.
Or really sick and in a lot of pain.
Yes.
But now I feel like people that aren't even in pain, like these younger generations are coming up with us as parents.
Yep.
And they're actively seeking truth in their own health, in their own life. And even our kids, we've got 4 daughters between the 2 of us. They are, they use the Yuka app now to scan all of their skincare. They scan their food, and they'll even like tell their friends, "Oh, I can't get that at Sephora because it's scored under a 50, and my mom will kill me." Or they'll say, like, out of nowhere, my 10-year-old will be like, "Oh yeah, no, that's toxic. I can't eat that."
Oh my God, I love that. It's actually something I wanted to ask you about, because it sounds like you guys just have such a, what do I even call it? Like a loving and peaceful relationship with this lifestyle. And I've seen a lot of people, when they're incorporating it with their kids have almost like this rebellion towards it. How have you navigated that as a parent, kind of making it something that your kids are into?
Well, I think kids are really smart, and I don't think a lot of parents give their kids credit.
Okay.
You have to be the example, and you also can't jam stuff down their throats. I mean, how many of us grew up with parents who said, "You can't do this, you can't do that," and then what do we want to do? We want to go do the thing that they say don't go do, right? Like that's typical parent-child relationship.
Right. It's human nature to some degree.
It's human nature. But instead, if you're more vulnerable and open with your kids and you actually tell them the truth, then their BS meter will stop going off, and they'll actually be able to receive a lot of the information. They'll say, "Oh, my mom used to, really like rage out at me when she was not feeling so well. And now that she's feeling good, she's much more patient with me. She's much happier. She sings at the top of her voice on the way to school every day. She shows up for me more."
I love that.
So there's a lot of ways that you can parent your kids without actually having to do anything.
Yeah.
Just by living your best life.
Yeah, you just lead by example, exactly like you said. It is, and especially when they're able to see, I think it's so true, when they're able to see you are more patient and kind when you are feeling well, and then they're, I'm sure, able to recognize it in themselves as well. Like, oh, I ate that candy bar at school, and I really didn't feel good at practice after school today.
Right. My youngest daughter is actually, she's level 2 Reiki certified at 10.
Oh my goodness.
And she she can't, she's so funny. This kid just kind of says whatever's at the top of her head.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like verbal diarrhea sometimes. And the other day we always like put our phones away when we're sitting at the dining room table together, and we have real family meals and dinners, and we just talk. And usually it's a very silly conversation. There's a lot of laughing and jesting with each other.
Right.
And we were talking about cheating on tests.
Okay.
And she's like, well, I've never cheated on a test, but I do have to come clean about something. And I'm like, oh God, what? And she said, I used to flush my pills down the toilet that you would give me when I was really sick, when I was little, because they didn't make her feel good. And these are pharmaceutical medications that her doctor had prescribed to her. And I was like, okay. She had the intuitive knowing that it was actually doing more harm than good for her. And so I can't really be mad at her, but I'm also like, you could have gotten better. Could you have gotten better? I don't know if you could have gotten better. But at the end of the day, she's her own person.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to control her.
Yeah.
I'm just going to give her the best, like the most space and the best support I can give all of our kids and my partner and my friends and my colleagues and the people that work for my businesses. Give them all the space to figure it out on their own.
Yeah.
I spent so much of my life as a micromanager and my career that now I kind of run my household like I run my business.
Right. Right.
Which is I have to do the things first, and I have to be willing to fail and be open and honest about that.
Right.
So that I can learn, so that everybody else can learn.
Yeah. I love that so much. Speaking of your husband, the first time I met you guys, I remember immediately just like feeling the energy with you both, and he's here with us, which I love. But I just remember feeling the energy between you both, that you guys just had one of the most magical and most supportive connections I truly have ever experienced.
Yeah.
How did you guys come together, and how has your relationship impacted both of your wellness?
Oh, you're gonna cry. I'm very lucky, very, very lucky. I re-met Dan at a point in time where I had basically given up. It's really hard to be in the dating scene in your 40s.
Yeah.
And I had given up for a lot of reasons, but mostly just because I wanted to just focus on loving myself and loving my family. And I finally felt comfortable doing that. And so I was just going to throw myself into work. And of course, you know, God always has a different plan for you. But we had known each other throughout the course of our lives. And probably most significantly in college, one of his best friends went to FIT, where I went to school, and was dating I only had 3 friends in college because I worked during the day and I went to school at night. So I had this friend, Sabrina, and she was dating his best friend. And so we knew each other from college. And so anyway, fast forward to last year, our daughters went to the same private school together.
Wow.
And even though we lived 45 minutes apart, because our kids went to the same school, we were on the same Facebook group.
Okay.
And I saw his Facebook profile, and I'm like, God, that guy looks so familiar. And just out of nowhere, I just messaged him, and he thought I was like some psychopath stalker or like a fake profiler or something. And he didn't reply right away. And I'm like, so here's my phone number. Just call me. I don't know why I did that. I've never done that. Like even on dating apps and stuff, like I've never just given some random dude my phone number.
Yeah.
I'm usually very protective of my private life and information. And he texted me, and and then we back channeled it and figured it out. But our daughters are friends.
Okay.
So, and this is my oldest daughter, who had the hardest time, I think, with the divorce, and had the hardest time in school, and always had like anxiety, and she was just so happy. that we had found each other. But she said, you cannot break up because I love Mia so much. We're such good friends. And I said, I don't think after our first date, I wanted to tell him I loved him. And I didn't know why. I'm like, this is so crazy.
Oh my gosh, you were getting such pings so early on. Even you sending that message, like, to me, that's such a...
Oh, totally ping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, God wink of just like, this is what you're supposed to do. Just do it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was definitely getting nudged in his direction. And then that was just it. After our first date, we realized how, since we were little kids, we had been in the same place at the same time. There's potentially he's even saved me from my elevator on the Upper East Side when I lived on the Upper East Side, which is why I always had like an infatuation with firemen.
Oh my goodness, I did not know this about you guys.
But it was just an
cool.
instant connection, and there's so many weird things that bring you together, and when you finally get together and you feel the connection, you realize, like, this is my person. Yeah. It doesn't feel like anything else I've ever experienced before.
Yeah. I resonate with that so much. But I felt the exact same way when I met Mike or re-met Mike as well, because we had met when we were little kids, and it was just the universe just put us in the same place at the same time when the timing was right. And I had the exact same thing. I was like, our parents knew our dads grew up together, so our parents, similar to your daughters, were like, do you realize that if you date, you can't really break up?
Because we're friends.
They're like,
you're going to mess everything up.
Please tread lightly. And we both just kind of had that inner knowing, like, no, I really don't think we're going to break up. I think, we've been on 2 dates, but I'm pretty sure this is it.
From day one, we knew it. And actually, we just celebrated like our 5-month anniversary of getting engaged. And I'm doing the math. I'm like, we haven't even been together for 10 months yet. So we've been engaged longer than, we were not engaged.
Oh my goodness.
And dating. So we got
engaged. How quickly did you guys get engaged?
Like 4.5 months after knowing each other. Oh my gosh,
that's awesome.
But it was just...
But but we knew
each other.
We could have gotten engaged at that point. Like, it wouldn't have really made a difference.
Right.
I remember asking Mike after we got married. So are you guys married yet? I called him your husband. I didn't mean to.
No, but I mean, it feels like
right.
Like
it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it
because
doesn't.
like I remember asking Mike that, like, I think it was like the day before our wedding. I was like, can you believe like we're about to be married? And he was like, yeah. I would have we've been like emotionally, spiritually married since we started dating,
Exactly.
And
technically it just changes your tax implications.
Yeah. So which we have to figure that one out.
Pretty much it. But I mean, it really, I never really thought I wanted to get married again.
Right.
I wanted to be engaged, I think, so quickly because I don't know, I'm a little old school.
Yeah.
And he did too. He didn't really think he wanted to be married again either. Mm-hmm. So it was a surprise for both of us, but we're both people of faith, and it's important for us to, like you were saying before, lead by example.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want my kids to just live with some dude who's non-committal, for years and years and years without committing. And not that marriage is the ultimate commitment, but I've been through a divorce. It's really hard to get divorced, and it sucks. Yeah. And so if you've already been divorced and you're going back into a commitment with somebody, then you really are in it to win it.
Yes.
you don't want to give up on it.
No, you really are.
And we have a great family and a great household, and we've got 2 dogs and 4 daughters, 2 14-year-olds, 12-year-old, and 10-year-old.
Wow.
It sounds chaotic. It's actually really fun. It's exciting. We're all learning from each other. We're all growing at like a rapid pace.
Yeah.
And we love each other so much, all of us. There's so much love between all of us. We call ourselves 006, O'Neill O'Keefe.
I love that. I love that. I know. I love that it's O'Neill O'Keefe. Like, you guys, it does. It all just like fits. Was there any friction? Like, I know the girls were friends, but coming together in one house? Like, was there ever a period where the girls started to be like, wait, maybe I don't want this, or no?
I mean, I'm sure that everybody was surprised that it was happening so fast.
So quickly, yeah.
But they were all there when we got engaged, and everybody was crying happy tears, and they were a part of the whole thing. So I think it's important for anyone who's making a big change in their life to be really open and really honest and really vulnerable with your children.
Yeah.
Because if you try to hide stuff or you try to do stuff on the sneak, like I've done that before. Like I would go on dates and not tell them about stuff, or you know, when I broke up with a former boyfriend, I wouldn't tell the kids what I was going through. Yeah. And so they internalized it. Like, I'm mad at them. Yeah. So it's really important to have really open, radically candid conversations with your children. I think it's really, there's a book called Radical Candor that I read many, many years ago. It's about caring deeply but challenging directly. Okay. So a lot of times I'll even say to them, you know, I know this is hard for you, but I don't know exactly what part of it is hard for you. Can we talk about it? Yeah. And then they'll just tell me. And it's great to have that level of connection. Yeah. A lot of parents, I think that they're the authority and that they can do whatever they want. And that's really not the case.
Well, I think, like you said earlier, their BS meter goes off. Like, kids are very intuitive and very intelligent. So I love that. I'll definitely have to read that book, because I think it's applicable even as a leader in the workspace.
Business. Yeah. Oh, it's a business book.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, because I've felt the same thing even with our teams, you know, like when we're trying to figure out something as a leadership team, and we don't want to ruffle anyone's feathers, we don't want to stress anyone out. And so we keep things, they can feel it, right. You know, like it's a little bit.
Then you become passive aggressive, right. And then you get frustrated, and right. And then it's not good for any type of relationship. Yeah. You know, not a romantic relationship, not a relationship with your children, your family, your parents, you know, your siblings. But especially in business, it's important to ask, you know, do you have a couple of moments? Can I talk to you for a couple of moments? Yes, absolutely. You can do this with your kids too. You know, are you open to hearing some constructive criticism? And if they say no, then you know that it's not the right time to talk to them. Yeah, yeah. And if they say yes, they're giving you permission to tell them what's going on, what's on your heart, or what's on your mind. And so a lot of times we, as leaders, either in our household or in our businesses, forget that. Yes. And especially in this industry, because it's really, I wanted to ask you this question. Okay. Why are people so up, like, why is there fighting happening in biohacking? Like, what is going on? Aren't we all in this industry just to help people? Yes. Like, why is there so much stuff happening? Like, different wellness centers are trying to take out other wellness centers, and conferences are bidding on each other's keywords to steal exhibitor. Like, what is happening? It's crazy. I don't get it. I was just talking about this with a friend the other day. My friend owns Pilates studios, and he's like, this Pilates studio is trying to take us out and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what? Why? Like, I am such a believer in rising tides raise all ships. 1,000%. Especially in our industry where, you know, like my medical director, Dr. Brynn, he was one of the like OGs in this industry. And he's the first one to say, like, yeah, 20 years ago, my fellow surgeons were telling me that what I was doing was snake oil and woo-woo, talking about stem cell therapy, which is now becoming like mainstream, at least from my point of view. Like, it's undeniable the positive effect with no side effects that stem cells can have on the body. And I think it's becoming very similar with peptides and you know, just all of the red light therapy, any sort of fringe. Well, I mean, red light photobiomodulation has thousands of research
Right.
studies, right? A lot of efficacy. Even like PEMF
Right.
for muscle regeneration, HBOT, right?
Yes.
Hyperbaric oxygen therapy. All of these things have a lot of clinical efficacy, but it takes time
Yes.
to get there.
It does.
But you're in the trenches. You're seeing
Yes.
these people. So that's why I don't understand. It's like, why can't we, like, who said it? Why can't we all just get along?
Why can't we all just be friends?
But
No,
you're right.
really.
I mean,
I think it's like anything. It's money and ego.
Yeah.
Especially, like, you really see it in healthcare. Like, it's just, a lot of the leaders of these clinics or companies, they have good intentions, but like anything, ego can get in the way. And that's what our team is constantly just trying to check in with one another, because we're moving very quickly and we're constantly innovating on our own ideas and others' ideas and trying to work together and really coming together to say, do we want to do this because we really think this is what's going to have a positive impact on our patients and our clients?
Right.
Or do we just want to do this cool thing to be able to say that we do this cool thing?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's
like becoming a celebrity.
Yeah.
When I went down to the first biohacking conference that I had ever attended, where were we? We were in Orlando, and I was helping Immortal. So
Okay.
right after I met them, the CEO was like, you have an impressive background in marketing and technology, could you potentially help us? So I was preparing for my TEDx, for the first TEDx I did, the first big talk I had done in many years was in May of 2023. And then I spoke on stage at Gaia later that year. But I was preparing for my TEDx, so I said, I can join you guys after my TEDx. And this conference was just a few weeks after my TEDx. So I joined, and I only had a few weeks to really help them get prepared for this conference. And of course, their main marketing tool is this Airstream.
Right.
And the Airstream wouldn't fit in the exhibit hall. So I got a call 11 days before the conference, and I had to change I worked with the team to change literally everything. I was ordering new backdrops that I was rush shipping to like overnight.
I was going to say, backdrops take like a while to get made usually.
They do.
Yeah.
So I was ordering backdrops that weren't even going to ship out for 5 days, and the conference was in like 6 days. It was crazy, but we ended up setting up our own booth on the second floor where the conference hall was on the first floor.
Okay.
And we had the Airstream outside because the fire marshal wouldn't let me bring the Airstream inside the building, and we couldn't figure out how to get it in the building anyway. So we had the Airstream outside, and we had a little golf cart that was taking people back and forth from like this open air exhibit that we had.
Wow.
And then we had another Immortal chamber on the floor. And so I created a calendar for the one in the Airstream, but I didn't think people would want to strip down to, like maybe take their shirts off if they're guys, or wear their bathing suit if they're women, to get as much exposure to the red light therapy as possible. But people were all about it. So I started writing in a notebook.
People at biohacking conferences go all in.
All in. I was very surprised. Like, this is a crazy group of people, but my kind of people. So, the women like taking off their tops, just wearing their bras, and it was great. But anyway, so I had to start writing in a notebook to get people signed up. I just started writing in the ledger, like, okay, 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock, 9:30, and then I'd write people's names next to it. And so the team, I was kind of like the keeper of the ledger. And all of these people were coming up to me. These Russian ladies were like throwing hundreds of dollars at me, trying to get me to, but it was all full. And it was full out in the Airstream too. So I felt so bad. And like these people are coming to me and they're like, well, I'm really sick and I'd really like to try it. And so I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go and like open the show floor early so that I could start doing sessions in the chamber before the conference even opened for like a couple of hours before the conference opened.
Oh my gosh.
But I remember this guy came up to me and he's like, "Oh, my name's Jim Quick."
Oh yeah,
And
I
I'm
know
like,
Jim Quick.
yeah, everybody
Yeah.
knows Jim Quick,
Yeah,
except
yeah.
for I didn't know who Jim Quick was. I didn't know who anybody was because
it's all new.
I didn't know biohacking at all.
Right.
I'd just been in the industry for 3 weeks. So I'm like, okay, how do you, I wrote down Jim Quick, Quick, because that's how you spell quick. And he's like, no, it's Kwik. Yeah. And I looked at him and I was like, oh, your parents really were trying to mess with you, huh? And he laughed at that. And then one of my colleagues came over and he's like, do you know who that is? I'm like, no, I have no idea who that is. They're like, he's Jim Quick. And I look him up. I'm like, oh, he's got millions of followers. He's written all these books. He's like, he's
like a New York Times bestseller.
A New York Times bestselling author. I'm like, wow, couldn't have been nicer.
Yeah, nicest guy. Yeah.
But then I met a lot of people with a lot of ego,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm this person, I'm that person. I'm like, I don't really care who you are because I don't know who anybody is anyway. Yeah. So everybody's normalized in my brain.
Which is a blessing in my opinion, and something I'm sure you're learning as well with podcasting. It's so funny, my marketing manager said to me the other day, she's like, I'm really realizing that it's like this person has, 1 million followers, this person has however many followers, and it's like, everyone's just people.
They're just people.
They're just people.
I know.
We're all like going through the same thing in a different font, and that's what is funny about, you can get so wrapped up, whether it's because of your success or fame or anything, and it causes more friction, I think, a lot of the times than people realize when egos get wrapped up into work, especially.
Yeah. I'm going to steal that from you. We're all going through life, but we're writing our story, but just in a different font.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm going to use that all the time now.
Good. Please take it. But honestly, that was something that stuck out to me so much when I met you and Dan, because the biohacking world is a funny one, and there aren't very many people that I meet and I really connect with and feel like, I want to be friends with those people, like it's mostly just like, oh yeah, they're cool, their business is cool. Yeah. We can work together. But you guys, it was like, you were immediately like, do you want to do an interview? And I was like, yeah. Do you want to do it right here? And you were like, yeah.
Let's do it.
I think we did it in front of my dad. We had my dad set up getting an EVO2 on the conference room floor. God bless him.
I know. I'm like, who is this jacked man? And you're like, he's in his late 50s. I'm like, no, he's not. He looks so young. I think he just turned 60, right?
Yeah, he turned 60 on Wednesday.
Happy birthday to Dad.
Yeah.
He looks like not a day over 50. At least a decade younger.
He'll be happy to hear that. But no, he looks awesome. So does my mom. I just made them model in a video shoot we did at the office last week. They're like,
I love it.
They're like, do we have to be in every shoot? I'm like, yeah, who doesn't want to look like you guys?
I created a recipe cookbook and video series for C60 around the holidays, and I had all four of the girls actually come in, and they were a part of a couple of the videos.
Oh, I love that.
I love including the family.
So do I.
This is not a business. This is a life.
Yeah.
We are living our purpose, and we're 100%. Helping people. Like, no matter how much money you make, you're not taking it with you.
No.
I'm sorry, King Tut. We're not going to bury me in a gold pyramid.
Yeah, right.
Surrounded by all of my things. I don't care what I have.
Right.
I care about what I'm creating and the legacy that I'm leaving for my children and future generations.
Yeah.
That they can be not only proud of, but that they can emulate in their own lives.
Absolutely. And I talk about this on the podcast a lot, but I think it's so relevant because I think especially like when people come to our studio in South Florida, like it's in our office in Pureform, and we've got all these fancy tools and treatments, and they all have their purpose and can be so healing and life-changing for people.
Yeah.
But the things that matter the most, most of the time, are not the fancy things and the expensive things. Like, it's, yes, you can be Brian Johnson and spend all of your time and money biohacking your life. I don't know about you. That's not the life I want to live. Like, I told you guys when we walked in, I'm like
him.
Same. Yeah. I like a little color in my skin.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I'm like, I'll take the extra wrinkles to have a little vitamin D. Yeah. A little natural vitamin D, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't do any Botox fillers or anything, but I've got that olive skin.
Yeah.
You know, I go out in the sun and I'm instantly tan.
Oh, I'm jealous. It takes me a little while, but I'll get there, and that's what. To me, I'm like, people ask me all the time since moving to Florida, like, oh, do you guys go to the beach all the time? And I'm like, unfortunately, no.
No, when you live in the place, you don't go do the things. Like, everybody asks me, oh, where should I stay when I come to New York? I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I live here. I don't stay in hotels in New York City.
Yeah.
They're like, where should I go out to eat? I'm like, oh, I don't really know that either. I cook all the time. I'm a chef, you know. So I'm like, come to my house. I don't know what to tell you. You'll get a better meal there, and it'll be a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think a lot of people over biohack.
Yeah.
And they take it too far, and they don't address the core foundational things that you need to address, like sleeping, water quality, and your community is so important. You know, when I was trying to heal myself, it was really hard because I didn't tell anybody. Mm-hmm. I was so like ashamed.
Really?
Yeah, because I guess because I was starting to teach kids like healthy eating.
Yeah.
And because I had, you know, kind of researched like some of my own healthy stuff, and I was eating organic, and I thought I was doing a good job, that it was like embarrassing. You know, I thought I was a fairly healthy person. I exercised a lot, and I ate kind of healthy, and you know, I wasn't eating like fried foods or fast food or anything like that. But you know, I don't know. When I got really sick, I got embarrassed.
I resonate with that. I remember feeling that way in college. I was really struggling with my PCOS, hormone imbalance, and you've seen my parents, like I learned how to lift weights at a very young age. Like, exercise and diet was no mystery to me.
Right.
And I was working so hard at it, but you couldn't tell by looking at me. And I was almost embarrassed when my friends would be like, oh yeah, Nicole goes to the gym for like 2 hours a day. In retrospect, now I realize that was too much, which is part of the problem. But
over biohacking.
Yeah, like I was doing too much. And there was plenty else playing a part of it, but I was embarrassed to admit how hard I was working on my health because you couldn't see it on the outside. And I also felt like embarrassed that I had to try so hard because other people didn't. Yeah, like I just wanted, I don't know, there was like an element of shame to it. Now
shame is the lowest vibration of all emotion. And that's exactly why I want to help people understand that there's so many options out there, and help guide them to the right communities that can support them in optimizing their health. Because when you're injured or you're feeling ill, the first thing that comes up is shame. Yeah. And it's a negative circle. Yeah. You know, you feel the shame, and then your mental health suffers, and because your mental health suffers, your physical health suffers, and then it's just all back to shame, and then, you know, and then you want to blame other things, other people, but really at the end of the day, you know, I had a really hard childhood, and you know, a tough middle of my life with, you know, the accident and my health, but I wouldn't change a thing. Yeah, I wouldn't change a thing. Same. You know, I'm very grateful for all of the people that were really hard on me, even the people that hurt me deeply. Yeah. And I'm really grateful for the times when I hurt myself, you know. Yeah.
Well, I think it enables you, like your daughter said, she didn't just say, Mom, I'm not the sick kid anymore. She said, now I'm the healer. Yeah. And I resonate with that so much, and I'm sure you feel the same way about yourself, that because you had to go through so much pain, you learned so much that now you get to be the teacher. Right. And yeah, I would have never learned all that I have and will continue to even over the past year, I've been dealing with a different issue with my health, and I'm like, okay, universe, show me what I'm supposed to learn so that I can help turn this information around for others, because in the same way that my PCOS taught me so much, and I was able to teach even my close friends as they started going through hormonal imbalances and inflammatory issues years later, I felt like I had the guidebook for them. And it'll be the same thing with future things as well. Yeah,
it's very validating that you went through all you went through, and I went through all I went through, and everybody's going through what they go through, whether it's to learn something, to elevate, right, to get to that next level, like almost like playing a video game. Okay, I beat the Green Goblin this time, so now I got to level 25. Or it's to, like you said, have a guidebook to help other people.
Right.
When I think about your journey and your parents, they did a great job raising you because they allowed you to go through your own stuff and to learn on your own. So many kids these days have helicopter parents who want to fix everything, they want to take care of everything for them, and that's creating a generation of weak people who are not going to be able to figure their way out of a cardboard box.
100%.
So we need to, as parents, as leaders in business, let people fail and figure it out on their own, but give them enough information to help them, but they have to want to do it for themselves. You know how many people I've tried to help that weren't ready for my help? And that was my lesson, is don't help somebody unless they ask you.
Yep. I even feel that way. Thank you for that compliment to my parents, because I think about that often too, that I think one of the biggest favors they did me was they encouraged me to go out and fail on my own, and even just go out and explore an adventure on my own. Like, one thing about my mom in particular is she has no fear. Like, and she passed that along to me, and I, like, almost to a fault sometimes, where I'm like, I need to be a little bit more like hyper vigilant, head on a swivel, because I'm just kind of like in my own bubble. But like, knock on wood, like I'm fine. Like, I don't need to be like in, fight or flight mode, like ready to fight everybody all the time. Like,
you're like, I'm blessed and protected.
Yeah, I'm good. Like, I was like studying abroad while I was in college. People would be like, what country is Nicole in? My mom was like, I don't know. I think she called me from Amsterdam the other day.
That's great.
And it was the same when I moved to the city. It was like everybody, we lived in Florida. Everybody was like, aren't you doesn't it make you nervous? I lived in Alphabet City, and all my aunts were like, that's a bad neighborhood. Like, she shouldn't live there. My mom's like, she'll be fine. Yeah. And I was fine. Yeah. And it taught me so much more than I would have ever learned, like living in like a safe bubble, or just like being nervous to explore the world. And same thing, go out into the world and fail in my career and pick myself back up and figure out what I'm going to do next.
Right. Someone said to me once, worry is like sitting in a rocking chair thinking that you're going to go somewhere.
I love that.
Yeah. You're not going anywhere.
So much.
You're just rocking back and forth in a state of worry. Yeah. And you don't get anywhere when you're worrying.
100%. Before we wrap up, I would be remiss to not ask you, what are your favorite biohacking tools? Is there anything that you guys have tried that you were shocked either worked or didn't work?
So I would say I love PEMF and red light therapy. Okay. And the combination of the two, we actually have a bed with a PEMF mat. We have a couple different PEMFs, like a very light frequency and then a more aggressive frequency. And I would say that for especially for autoimmune stuff, like when it does flare up, I almost died 2 summers ago from, an anaphylactic reaction to penicillin.
Oh my goodness.
I had strep 3 times in a row, and finally the doctor was like, you have to take antibiotics for strep, or else it could do a lot more damage than the antibiotic will. Well, the antibiotic almost killed me. Oh I didn't know that I was allergic to penicillin, because I'd had penicillin a million times before as a kid, and even when I was in labor with my oldest, they gave me penicillin because I had whatever that infection is.
Okay.
Or the thing is that you have, I can't even remember now. But yeah, I went fully back into autoimmune after that, but it only lasted like a month and a half.
Wow.
And I was able to get over it because of like PEMF and red light therapy. So red light therapy for me is great for a couple of things. For my skin, keeps you looking young and fresh.
Nothing wrong
but
with
it
that.
flushes your body with ATP, which is what your mitochondria need to keep your cells healthy.
Yep.
So of the billions of cells that we have 4 to 6 mitochondria that support all of those billions of cells. So we have quadrillions of mitochondria in our body, and they use ATP to stay healthy, to keep those cells healthy. It's like their food. It's like their fuel. If we are running on empty all the time because we have high levels of cortisol, we're not getting enough sleep, we're drinking and eating crappy stuff, you know, we're in toxic environments, we're on our phones constantly, whatever the case is for the depletion in ATP, red light therapy can like immediately flush your body with ATP, which is awesome. And so does PEMF. But PEMF gets down into like the muscle tissue too to help. But I want to try EBO too. I think like if I had that in my house, I'd be like Brian Johnson. I'd be like superhuman and trying to live forever.
Well, we're bringing it to EBO or to eudaimonia this year. We're going to do EBO2s in the treatment room.
Dan might want to sign up for that.
I was thinking we'll put Dan first on the schedule.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get a lot of good content of him in there, just like your dad last year.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah. No, I think that'll be really great.
That's awesome.
Hopefully help take some of the inflammation out of the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just so grateful for all of the work that you're doing to bring these cool, new, cutting-edge things to Florida. And then can you open some, like a Pure Form up here in New York? Come on. Then you
it's
can
only a
come up
matter
here
of
more
time.
often.
I know, right? I'm like I said, any excuse for me to come up more often. I would love to. Yeah. We're opening a new office, which is actually under a different brand called Reunited Health.
Oh, you're opening a Humanot.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. You're familiar with the brand?
I am.
Oh, good.
Yeah, well, Jim created
Restore
Hyper Wellness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're so excited to be working with Jim and the whole team.
That's awesome.
So we're the Florida franchisers, and we're opening an office in Palm Beach Gardens.
Amazing.
Soon after this episode comes out, actually. It might actually be like the same week. It's probably early July that it's coming out.
Amazing.
Or the office is opening. So we're super excited, and we'll have a PEMF in Humanot, which is awesome.
Do you know which one you're using
as well? Great question. I don't. Which one?
There's a lot now.
Okay.
There's a lot now.
Yeah.
There's Pulse and
It's Pulsed.
It's Pulse?
Yeah.
Pulse PEMF?
Yeah.
Cool. That's what we have at home.
Yeah, we're I'm super excited to have PEMF.
Awesome.
So, okay. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Where can people find you?
So you can go to wellnesseternal.com. You can also go to like my personal brand website, which is just lindsayO'Neill.com. You can follow us at wellnesseternal_ on Instagram, and my other business is Small Hinges, so that's at Small Hinges. But you can email us too. So it's we, at wellnesseternal.com. My podcast is the Optimize We podcast. It's all over the place.
And it's great.
Thank you.
I remember listening to the first episode when you sent it to me, and I was like, all caps, like, Lindsay, you are so good at this.
It took me a long
your ways.
time. Oh my gosh. No, you're really good at it. You have like
Thank
this
you.
soothing, beautiful voice and such
you.
intuitive questions, and you're such a great listener and friend. And
Thank you. Likewise. I love any opportunity I get to see you guys.
yeah, us too.
Well, thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much for being here.
Thank you, Nicole.
This podcast was brought to you by Pureform, a comprehensive wellness center in Boca Raton, Florida. The website is pureformhealth.com, or you can find us on Instagram at pureformhealth. Feel free to message us with any questions, and note that you can connect with our providers for consultations over Zoom, from everything from stem cell therapy to hormone replacement therapy and peptide therapy. That's it for this episode of the Healthspan Collective. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring. Don't forget to follow us wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, we'd love for you to rate, review, subscribe, and send it to a friend. We'd also love to connect with you on Instagram. Follow the podcast at Healthspan Collective and me at Nicole J. Doran. And leave us a comment on our latest post, letting us know what you'd like us to cover next.